If you've been curious about fresh milled flour but still have a lot of questions, you're not alone. Things like, do I need grain mill? Is it actually healthier? Why does my bread turn out dense? In this video, I'm answering the most common questions I hear about fresh milled flour so you can feel confident getting started and avoid a lot of the frustration that can come in the beginning. So, question number 1, is fresh milled flour actually healthier? Well, fresh milled flour is different from store-bought flour because it contains the entire wheat berry, the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. Nothing's been removed and nothing needs to be added back in. With commercial flour, the bran and germ are removed to extend the shelf life. The healthy oils that are found in the germ of the wheat are stripped out to prevent the flour from going rancid, which also removes much of the nutritional value. Then certain nutrients are added back in through a process called enrichment. With fresh milled flour, you're using the grain in its complete form. Therefore, fresh milled flour provides more antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. So the answer is yes, I believe fresh milled flour is actually healthier. Question number 2, do I need a grain mill to get started? Yes. If you want true fresh milled flour, you're going to need a grain mill. But this doesn't mean you need a complicated setup. You really just need 3 things: a grain mill, wheat berries, and a way to store them. I personally use the NutriMill Classic, and I'll link it below if you want to see the one that I've used and found practical and efficient for my family. So start simple and build from there. Question number 3, can I use fresh milled flour in any recipe? Yes, you can use fresh milled flour in almost any recipe, but you're going to need to make a few adjustments. Fresh milled flour absorbs more liquid, so most recipes need more hydration. The texture will also be a little different since you're working with a whole grain instead of refined flour. If you're not sure how to adjust your recipes, I have a free fresh milled conversion guide that walks you through exactly how to do that. Question number 4, why is my bread dense? This is probably the most common frustration, and usually it comes down to a few things. 1, not enough hydration, not mixing it long enough, and also expecting that it should behave like regular white flour. This is probably the most common frustration, and usually it comes down to a few things. Not enough hydration, not mixing it long enough, or expecting it to behave like white flour. Fresh milled flour needs more water, and your dough should feel soft, not stiff. And whole grain bread will naturally have a slightly tighter crumb, so once you understand those differences, it gets much easier. My best tips are to first adjust your expectation. Fresh milled bread made at home doesn't look or taste the same as store-bought bread, because it's not. Second, don't give up if your first recipe doesn't turn out. Just try it again and make some adjustments. Adding more water and mixing it longer usually makes for better bread. Question number 5, what's the difference between hard and soft wheat? Well, hard wheat is higher in protein, which makes it best for breads, rolls, and anything that actually needs structure. I prefer to use a mixture of hard red and hard white wheats in my breads. If I were going to only purchase one hard wheat, it would be hard white because I actually prefer the flavor of that one. Soft white wheat is lower in protein and it's better for things like muffins and cookies and pancakes. My family uses soft white wheat a lot, so I keep it on hand. I purchase all of my wheat berries from Azure Standard, and I'll leave an affiliate link below. Question 6, does fresh milled flour work with sourdough? Yes, fresh milled flour works beautifully with sourdough because it contains more nutrients. Your starter often becomes more active and may ferment a little faster. It behaves a little differently, but once you understand those changes, it's very predictable. One thing I've learned in combining sourdough and fresh milled flour is to adjust hydration and fermentation time. I give a thorough explanation of everything you need to know about using fresh milled flour and sourdough in my Grains to Loaf course, which you can get in the description below. This is a very affordable, work at your own pace course with tons of tips and recipes. Question 7, how do I store wheat berries and flour? I store my wheat berries in 5-gallon buckets with gamma seal lids in a cool, dry place. Mine are actually in my closet because we don't have a big fancy pantry or a basement. And then I keep smaller glass jars in my kitchen for everyday use. I simply walk to my closet and refill the jars in my kitchen. If I mill extra flour, I store it in the freezer in airtight bags to keep it fresh. This is actually what I use to feed my sourdough starter. That way I don't have to mill flour just for a feeding. Question 8, how long does fresh milled flour last? Fresh milled flour is best used right after milling. This ensures you're getting the most nutrients. I mill my flour as I use it. I do not mill flour in advance. If you leave it at room temperature, it's best used within a few days. If you store it in the freezer, it can last longer and still stay fresh for up to 6 months. Question number 9, is it more expensive to mill your own flour? Well, there is an upfront cost for a grain mill. You can save using my affiliate link, or you can even find one in Facebook Marketplace. Buying wheat berries in bulk is often more cost effective over time. You'll save quite a bit of money buying in bulk and storing it in 5-gallon buckets rather than purchasing small quantities from the grocery store. For many people, it becomes less about cost and more about quality control over what they're feeding their family. Question 10, is it worth it? For me, absolutely, it's worth it. Not because it's trendy, but because it allows me to feed my family more intentionally. After a while, it becomes part of your rhythm. And I don't find it more time consuming at all. It literally takes maybe 2 more minutes to mill wheat berries versus getting flour out of the jar in your pantry. You don't have to do everything at once. You can start small with one recipe and build from there. If you're just getting started and want a simple step-by-step guide to milling and storing and baking with fresh milled flour, you can grab my free Fresh Milled Flour Quick Start Guide below. And if you're ready to go deeper, especially with sourdough, my course, Grains to Loaf, walks you through everything from choosing your grains to baking with confidence. You can bake nourishing loaves with fresh milled flour right along with me. Thanks so much for watching. Your support means the world to me.